Legendary game developer Amy Hennig is working on a new Star Wars game, and that's really exciting for a lot of reasons, and I'm gonna tell you all about it right now. The official press release from earlier this week reads, SkyDance New Media, helmed by award-winning writer and director Amy Hennig, is announcing a collaboration with Lucasfilm Games to develop and produce a richly cinematic action-adventure game featuring an original story in the legendary Star Wars galaxy. More on that in a bit, but first, let's dive into a little history that involves scandal, falsified bylines, the closure of a beloved studio, and potentially a really incredible redemption arc. If you're not familiar with Hennig's body of work, she wrote, produced, and directed on the Legacy of Kain and Soul Reaver series, but most recently, she's known for being a creative director and writer on the first 3 Uncharted games. After working on Uncharted 4 for 2 years, Amy Hennig mysteriously left Naughty Dog, which was further clouded by a report by IGN in 2014, who said, according to trusted sources, she was forced out by Last of Us directors Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. Years later, in 2020, Mitch Dyer, who was on the byline of that story, came out in a Twitter thread saying his bosses at the time, Tal Bevins and Steve Butts, forced the gossip about a hostile takeover into the story, and when Dyer pushed back and tried to remove his name from the byline, they refused. For context, Tal Bevins was one of the co-founders of IGN, and Steve Butts was an EIC or editor-in-chief for a really long time. Multiple employees have come out over the years though, accusing both of toxic behavior, abusive tactics, and bullying staff members. If you remember, Steve Butts was fired in 2018 for alleged misconduct. Just really top of the class, I guess. As for the real reason Amy Hennig left Naughty Dog, it's still a bit unclear because she hasn't exactly said. Back in 2018, in an episode of a podcast called Designer Notes, which is a one-on-one series of interviews with game developers, Hennig did confirm she left Naughty Dog and moved back to Northern California without having a new job lined up. Specifically, she said,
splitting from something like that, it's like having a divorce and losing the kids. And, you still have to see the Facebook page.
Right. Things still go on, yeah.
Your spouse with the new significant other who's now raising your child.
Adding even further to the speculation around Hennig's departure, Nolan North, who plays Nathan Drake, said in a very recent interview that the biggest thing most people probably remember is we had shot Uncharted 4 with Amy Hennig for about 7 months. We were well into the game, and she was dismissed from Naughty Dog, and they got rid of everything we did. Hennig also recounted this in the Designer Notes podcast, where she explains that she actually did a ton of foundational work that made it into the final game. However, Naughty Dog wanted to go in a different direction with the characters and the final script, which led to recasting, causing the need for the reshoots. Now, as you might have known already, after leaving Naughty Dog, Amy Hennig landed at EA working with Visceral on a Star Wars game referred to as Project Ragtag. The title was supposed to be a cinematic action-adventure game and revolved around an Ocean's 11 style heist story, but was famously canceled. Back in 2017, Jason Schreier, who was at Kotaku at the time, did an investigative report about how Ragtag was canceled, and essentially the ambitious nature of complex sabotage systems in the project already made things pretty hard, but ultimately the game was crushed due to overzealous expectations and mismanagement from EA. Top brass at the publisher wanted to add multiplayer to the game to add replayability, and were insistent on using the Frostbite 3 engine, which was built for first-person shooters, not a third-person action game. Furthermore, EA executives did not like that Ragtag didn't feature themes they felt were core to the Star Wars experience, like lightsabers and force powers, while also expecting the game to review, as well as other action-adventure games around the time, ironically like Uncharted 4. Motive Studios was brought on to help for a bit, but after Star Wars Battlefront launched, reviewed poorly but sold well, Motive was pulled back into focus on adding a single-player campaign to Battlefront 2. Then there were layoffs at Visceral, with others quitting to find work elsewhere. However, eventually, in 2016 during E3, we actually got a look at the game and the reception was highly positive. This caused EA to pull in their Vancouver studio to work on Ragtag, but tensions rose with those left at Visceral, who felt it became pretty clear leadership wanted EA Vancouver to take over the project entirely. According to the Kotaku article, ultimately, Visceral employees made a set of high-octane demos in which Ragtag's main characters would get chased by an ATST walker, get into a shootout on the desert planet Tatooine, and embark on a rescue mission within the dungeons of Jabba's palace. But ultimately, EA was scared that the game wouldn't make enough money, so they scrapped it and shut down Visceral Games. What remained of Project Ragtag was given to EA Vancouver, which was then entirely repurposed as a multiplayer game, which also never came to see the light of day. When US Gamer asked Amy Hennig about Project Ragtag back in 2019, she said, "I wish people could have seen more of it because it was a lot farther along than people ever got a glimpse of. And it was good, but it just didn't make sense in EA's business plan, ultimately. After things went so badly at EA, Hennig actually left with the intention of starting her own studio. However, she was quickly scooped up by SkyDance Media, known for their work on the more recent Mission Impossible films, and she was brought on basically to help head their interactive division. The cancellation of cool Star Wars games like 1313 and Project Ragtag certainly is a bummer, especially when we lose great studios in the process like Visceral Games. But now, with the new announcement of SkyDance Media taking on a new Star Wars game and Amy Hennig at the helm, there's a new hope. Hennig has talked about how dear the original Star Wars trilogy is to her in a number of interviews over the years, so to see her get a chance to make the Star Wars game she wants to make is really exciting. It's unclear what the licensing situation will be and how much of the work done on Project Ragtag will make its way into this new game, but given the Star Wars game's already in development and Hennig's short tweet about the announcement, it's safe to assume it will likely be more scoundrel-oriented than Jedi. SkyDance New Media also announced last year that it's working on a game set in the Marvel Universe, so it's probably going to be a bit of a wait before we get a chance to see anything from their Star Wars project. But if it all comes together, it will be a cathartic redemption arc on multiple levels. Alright, that's going to do it for today. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you want out of an Amy Hennig directed Star Wars game, and if you're looking for more video game news and updates, be sure to check out more Inside Gaming right here on YouTube.